Hey, welcome back, guys. Back on the stream. I just wanted to go over the article about China and the hypersonic missile threat or potential thereof. This other article out of the U.S. Sun. Let's see. China could strike U.S. bases from California to Japan with invincible hypersonic missiles, experts have warned. I don't think this is the exact same article that I was reading from earlier. Let's see. Beijing has built up a huge arsenal of hypersonic weapons dubbed carrier killers, aimed at neutralizing the power of the U.S. Navy and attacking American facilities in the Pacific. And here we have a little picture of a satellite with its green lasers and oh, I don't even know what those green lasers do. And you can shine them in the eyes of a commercial pilot, and that might cause some havoc. Beijing has already demonstrated its military might by launching 2 hypersonic nuclear missiles which circled the world and defied the laws of physics. Yeah, alright. As tensions continue to mount between Washington and Beijing over Taiwan, U.S. officials fear China could use hypersonic weapons to wipe out American warplanes and bases in Japan or Guam in the event of a war. Guam, one of the territories. Japan, one of our allies. Experts have now warned China is using green lasers, firing from little Chinamen on the ground, fired from satellites to gather intelligence for surprise missile attacks. The lasers spotted over Hawaii were initially thought to be coming from a NASA satellite, but it turned out it was the Daqi-1, a Chinese pollution monitoring satellite. Looks like pollution's not the only thing they're monitoring. Rick Fisher, an expert on China's military from the International Assessment and Strategy Center, said the satellite is a classic case of Chinese dual use of civilian tech that also serves military missions. He told the Sun Online that China's laser activity could pave the way for a surprise Pearl Harbor-style missile attack on Hickam, a joint U.S. Navy and Air Force facility. But Fisher also warned the Chinese People's Liberation Army could target other bases from Japan to California. Indeed, there is an increasing Chinese threat to Hawaii, but in general, a war over Taiwan, the PLA will also likely target U.S. facilities in Japan, South Korea, Alaska, and California. Interesting. Chinese weather satellites that use green lasers can assist the precise targeting of hypersonic glide vehicle warheads will be carried by air-launched ballistic missiles launched by Xi'an H-6N bombers that can be refueled in order to reach Hawaii. He explained the Daqi-1 lasers specifically monitor the density of the atmosphere and can detect different wind directions. This is precisely the data required for China to accurately target small multiple reentry vehicle nuclear warheads, or more recent, hypersonic glide vehicle warheads. Hypersonic glide vehicle warheads seek to exploit low trajectories that are also low altitude and thus are very vulnerable to adverse weather conditions, necessitating the weather data precision that would be available from laser measurements. China's arsenal of hypersonic missiles have previously been described as game changers by Western experts. This week, the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency warned China might have already deployed a weapon capable of hitting U.S. bases in the Pacific. U.S. defense officials believe China is now outpacing Russia in the development of the hypersonic weapons, which are capable of moving at speeds greater than 5 times the speed of sound. China's newest missile in service, the DF-17, became fully operational at the beginning of January. The DF-17 is a medium-range ballistic missile with a range of up to 2,500 kilometers. According to the U.S. military, it is capable of extreme maneuvers and evasive actions. China has also the DF-41 intercontinental ballistic missile, equipped with a hypersonic glide vehicle. The missile can carry 10 nuclear warheads with a range of more than 14,000 kilometers, making it capable of striking any location on Earth, according to Chinese media. Beijing has also created a hypersonic aircraft prototype called Starry Sky 2 that could transport nuke missiles at 6 times the speed of sound. Hey, how's everybody doing out there? Give me something in the chat. Let me know you guys are alive. I don't know how to say your name, but how do you know? How do I know what? Are you referring to the title of the vehicle? Title of the title of the video? All this talk about hyperglide vehicles. China's increasing military strength comes as tensions flare between Washington and Beijing over the issue of Taiwan, which China believes is a breakaway province and not a sovereign nation. Beijing and Taipei are feared to be sitting on the brink of a conflict which could end up drawing in the U.S. and potentially spiraling into World War III. The U.S. has continuously sided with Taiwan as they face increasing military aggression from China. And tensions heightened further after the U.S. military shot down a suspected Chinese spy balloon. We'll just call you. I'm alive and yes. If you're referring to the title, the answer is, who knows? That's the information we're being told. So let's assume that what we're being told is benefiting someone. Benefiting who? I don't know. The Sun-Times in gaining ad revenue? The U.S. federal government in garnering support for a future war? Or is the United States actually fearful and putting out other ideas? Who knows? I'm not the one to say. In a leaked memo at the time, Mike Minahan, chief of the U.S. Air Force's Mobility Command, said, "My gut tells me that we will fight in 2025. It comes as Xi Jinping is set to speak to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for the first time since Russia's invasion of Ukraine." According to the Wall Street Journal, the call is likely to take place after the Chinese president's visit to Moscow next week to meet with Putin. It is impossible to determine the likelihood of another nation implementing a first strike policy against the United States with any degree of certainty. First strike policies are highly controversial, and their use is considered a last resort, as they would result in devastating consequences for all parties involved. However, the possibility of a first strike policy by another nation cannot be completely ruled out. Geopolitical tensions, conflicting interests, and military buildups could lead to an escalation of tensions, increasing the likelihood of military conflict. To reduce the risk of a first strike, countries often engage in diplomatic efforts, such as negotiations, treaties, to address potential conflicts and reduce tensions. The United States has also implemented a robust nuclear deterrence policy, which involves maintaining a strong nuclear arsenal to deter other countries from launching a first strike against the U.S. Ultimately, the likelihood of another nation implementing a first strike policy against the U.S. depends on a range of factors. Thank you for that. Thanks for letting me know. Let me know if you can hear me a little bit better now, and if there is also a bit of static in the background. Let's find out about that too. I'll read that last paragraph. Ultimately, the likelihood of another nation implementing a first strike policy against the U.S. depends on a range of factors, including political and military tensions, foreign policy decisions, and international security. The international security environment. So how does this sound? How are we coming through now? Is this a little bit better? Way better. Way better's good. Moving on, SVB failure sparks blame over Trump-era regulatory rule. Give me one sec. Let me know what you guys think about that last. Let me know what you guys think about that last article. Do you think green lasers are going to cause are going to be used for military purposes and eventually first strike capability, or are they just mapping the land? All right. SVB failure sparks blame over Trump-era regulatory rule. All right. Congress cut burdens for smaller and mid-sized banks in 2018. So we keep going over the year 2018 as one of the policies implemented by the Trump admin to deregulate the banks and thus cause the current purported isolated bank failure, SVB. 8 years ago, Greg Becker delivered a blunt message to lawmakers in Washington. The bank he ran was not like Wall Street. As chief executive officer of SVB Financial Group, he urged Congress to pass legislation that would let workers at his firm avoid thousands of hours every year undergoing stress tests and prepping resolution plans. His was a simple lender, not like the global systemically important banks that regulators should be focused on. The evidence is clear that the Dodd-Frank Act framework for GSIBs is not appropriate for SVP and our peers. Becker said in comments to the powerful Senate Banking Committee, the costs are not just high for us, but for our customers. Becker was hardly alone. Legions of executives from other smaller and mid-sized banks, collectively known as regional lenders, were making a similar case. Eventually, they all got their wish. In 2018, a decade after a crisis that nearly brought down the global financial system, then President Donald Trump signed the Economic Growth, Regulatory Relief, and Consumer Protection Act into law. It freed up mid-sized firms like SVB from some of the strictest post-crisis regulations and cut their compliance costs. One size fits all. Those rules just don't work, Trump said at the White House, touting the removal of crippling rules. They shouldn't be regulated the same way as the large, complex financial institutions. And that's what happened, and they were being put out of business one by one. More than a dozen Democratic senators joined Republicans in backing the measure. Fast forward 5 years, 3 regional banks, including SVP's Silicon Valley Bank, have collapsed in the past week, and some are arguing that the lighter touch that Becker wanted so badly actually hastened their demise. Debate rages. Silicon Valley Bank's fall on Friday was the biggest U.S. bank failure in more than a decade. It sent shockwaves across the globe. By the time regulators stepped in 2 days later to say all depositors would be made whole, calm fears, and to take over another regional lender, Signature Bank, critics of the 2018 rollback were waiting to pounce. We've known since 2008 that stronger regulations are needed to prevent exactly this type of crisis, said Democratic Representative Ro Khanna, who represents a district in California that includes parts of Silicon Valley. Congress must come together to reverse the deregulation policies that were put in place under Trump to avert future instability. Hey guys, let me know where you guys are hailing from and how it's coming to. Can we hear better now? Is it coming through better now? Trump spokesman Stephen Cheung said in a statement that Democratic critics were trying to blame the former president for their failures with desperate lies. On a range of issues, this is nothing more than a sad attempt to gaslight the public to evade responsibility, he said. So, what do you guys think he means? Responsibility of the individuals at the bank, that were employed by the bank, or individuals that were using the bank, the atmosphere of Silicon Valley. Let me know what you guys think Stephen Cheung was talking about. or if he was saying the Democrats were responsible. All right. President Joe Biden on Monday said that he would seek tougher regulations. He told reporters that he would ask lawmakers and federal watchdogs to strengthen the rules for banks to make it less likely this kind of bank failure would happen again, and to protect American jobs and small businesses. The Trump-era deregulations have had a significant impact on the United States, both positively and negatively, depending on one's perspective. On one hand, some argue that deregulation helped stimulate economic growth by reducing the regulatory burden on businesses, which of course it would. For example, the Trump administration removed or weakened many environmental regulations that were seen as barriers to business growth, such as the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, all hallmarks of Nader's legacy. Additionally, Trump signed legislation that reduced regulations on banks and other financial institutions which some believed would help spur economic growth. On the other hand, others argue that deregulation under the Trump administration has led to negative consequences. Critics claim that the administration's deregulation of environmental protections have harmed the environment and public health. Well, we can look at the strip mining in Virginia, and if the previous administration has anything to do with that, then you can see that in real time. Of course, I don't know for sure, but it's for someone to research. For example, the Trump administration weakened regulations on coal power plants, which led to increased pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. Additionally, the administration's deregulation of the financial sector has raised concerns that it could lead to another financial crisis. And are we seeing that right now? I don't know. Probably not. I would think that SVB would be somewhat isolated from the rest of the economy. Furthermore, some of the Trump-era deregulations have been reversed by the Biden administration, which is expected to reinstate many of the environmental regulations that were rolled back under the previous administration. In summary, the impact of the Trump-era deregulations on the U.S. is complex and multifaceted, with both positive and negative effects depending on one's perspective. You guys want to leave a comment in the chat? Let me know what you guys think about regulation versus deregulation. We got another story here. This one's pretty interesting. At a San Francisco expo, AI is sorry for destroying humanity. Advances in artificial intelligence are coming so hard and fast that a museum in San Francisco, the beating heart of the tech revolution, has imagined a memorial to the demise of humanity. Sorry for killing most of humanity, person with smile cap and mustache, says a monitor welcoming a visitor to the Misalignment Museum, a new exhibit on the controversial technology. Like, you can really do anything. Well, talking about it, thinking about it is where you begin. A great point taken from Nader would be to engage your local congressman, the people with the jobs with the highest turnover rate, who have and wield the most power. If you've ever heard the term the military-industrial congressional complex, some people use that term, it's because it's true. If you want change, your congressmen, your reps are the first ones to go to approach, because, again, they have the highest turnover rate. And if voting is not completely rigged, then, again, they're the people that you should influence. Getting back to this, the pieces in this temporary show mix the disturbing with the comic. And this first display has AI disperse pithy observations to the visitors that cross into its line of vision. The concept of the museum is that we are in a post-apocalyptic world where artificial general intelligence has already destroyed most of humanity. Well, that's not bleak. I mean, it's like a post-Terminator world where the T-1000, or it's T-1000 Arnold, I forget. Let's see, whoever the other guy is, the liquid melt guy, the liquid metal guy. Imagine him with like a bit of manic depression. The concept, but then the AI realizes that it was bad and creates a type of memorial to the human. So our show's tagline is, "Sorry for killing most of humanity," she said. How odd. Artificial general intelligence, of course it's art. Art is art, but it's interesting and odd. Artificial general intelligence is a concept that is even more nebulous than the simple AI that is cascading into everyday life, as seen in the first emergence of apps such as ChatGPT or Bing's chatbot, and all the hype surrounding them. AGI is artificial intelligence that is able to do anything that a human would be able to do, integrating human cognitive capacities into its machines. Have you guys used ChatGPT or Bing's chat? Yeah, fool around with that. All around San Francisco and down the peninsula in Silicon Valley, startups are hot on the trail of the AGI Holy Grail. Sam Altman, the founder of ChatGPT, creator OpenAI, has said AGI, artificial general intelligence done right, can elevate humanity and change the limits of possibilities. Paperclip AI. But Kim wants to trigger a reflection on the dangers of going too far, too quickly. There have been lots of conversations about the safety of AI in pretty niche intellectuals tech circles on Twitter, and I think that's very important, she said. But those conversations are not easily accessible to the general public as concepts that you can see or feel, she added. Kim is particularly fond of a sculpture called Paperclip Embrace. Hopefully that's not the Operation Paperclip. Two busts of humans holding each other made entirely of paperclips. The work refers to the metaphor by philosopher Nick Bostrom, who in the 2000s imagined what would happen if artificial intelligence was programmed to create paperclips. I've heard that. It could become more and more powerful and constantly optimize itself to achieve its one and only goal, to the point of destroying all of humanity in order to flood the world with paperclips. Yeah, I've heard this. Not really, but I've seen it around lately. It could become more and more... Weighing the pros and cons of AI is a subject that became close to Kim's heart in an earlier job working for Cruise, an autonomous vehicle company. There she worked on an incredible technology which could reduce the number of accidents due to human error, but also presented risks, she said. The exhibit occupies a small space in a street corner building in San Francisco's hip Mission neighborhood. The lower floor of the exhibition is dedicated to AI as a nightmarish dystopia where a machine powered by GPT-3, the language model behind ChatGPT, composes spiteful caligrams against humanity in cursive writing. One exhibit is an AI-generated and totally fake dialogue between the philosopher Slavoj Žižek and the filmmaker Werner Herzog, two of Europe's most respected intellectuals. This infinite conversation is a meditation on deepfakes, images, sound, or video that aim to manipulate opinion by impersonating real people, and that have become the latest disinformation weapon online. Didn't Bing AI have a meltdown recently? I don't know. I haven't fooled around with the Bing AI. Can anybody tell me how different ChatGPT is from Bing AI, if you've used both? We only started this project 5 months ago, and yet many of the technologies presented here already seem almost primitive. Wow, 5 months ago. And either only so much is being released, or they are making huge strides. In the comment section, Thomas Paulus, POW lists, Elon warned of AI. What do people think of regulation he has suggested? What happens when hackers get a hold of AI? People who can... Yeah, and hacking is a relative term. It all depends on the capabilities of the person, you know. So many ways to create little scripts to do certain things. It won't be a sneak attack at Top Dog. Well, that's our interesting AI art. Sorry for destroying humanity. Here's an interesting one. Telehealth startup Cerebral shared millions of patients' data with advertisers. Cerebral has revealed it shared the private health information, including mental health assessments of more than 3.1 million patients in the United States with advertisers and social media giants like Facebook, Google, and TikTok. Let me know what you guys think about privacy and your data. I'm interested to know how much you guys think is already compromised. I think the entirety of information is just a dollar away. As technology continues to advance, the risk of our data being compromised increases. With the increasing use of the internet, social media, and the cloud storage, more and more of our personal information is being stored online, making it vulnerable to cyber attacks. The rise of internet-connected devices such as smart homes, wearables, and vehicles have created new avenues for hackers to exploit vulnerabilities in these systems and gain access to sensitive data. The increasing use of artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies also present potential risks to our data security. While these technologies can be used to enhance security, they can also be used by malicious actors to create more sophisticated and targeted attacks. As we move further into 2023 and beyond, it is important to remain vigilant and take steps to protect our data, such as using strong passwords, enabling two-factor authentication, and regularly updating our software and security systems. It is also important for companies and governments to invest in robust cybersecurity measures to protect the data of their customers and citizens. Privacy is nothing lightly. All I have can be accessed through the internet. Let's get back to the article. The telehealth startup, which exploded in popularity during the COVID-19 pandemic after rolling lockdowns and a surge in online-only virtual health services, disclosed the security lapse in a filing with the federal government that it shared patients' personal and health information, which used the app to search for therapy or other mental health care services. Cerebral said that it collected and shared names, phone numbers, email addresses, dates of birth, IP addresses, and other demographics, as well as data collected from Cerebral's online mental health self-assessment, which may have included the services that the patient selected, assessment responses, and other associated health information. So this is the company's full disclosure. If an individual created a Cerebral account, the information disclosed may have included name, phone number, email address, date of birth, IP address, Cerebral client ID number, and other demographic or information. If in addition to creating a Cerebral account, an individual also completed any portion of Cerebral's online mental health self-assessment, the information disclosed may also have included the service the individual selected, assessment responses, and certain associated health information. If, in addition to creating a Cerebral account and completing Cerebral's online mental health assessment, an individual also purchased a. Let me start over. If, in addition to creating a Cerebral account and completing Cerebral's online mental health assessment, an individual also purchased a subscription plan from Cerebral, the information disclosed may also have included subscription plan type, appointment dates, and other booking information, treatment, and other clinical information, health insurance, pharmacy, benefit information, for example, plan name and group member names, and insurance copay amount. Cerebral was also sharing patients' data with tech giants in real time by way of trackers and other data collecting code that the startup embedded within its apps. Tech companies and advertisers like Google, Facebook, and TikTok allow developers to include snippets of their custom-built code, which allows the developers to share information about their app users' activity with the tech giants, often under the guise of analytics, but also for advertising. See, the problem, guys, is there has never been any electronic privacy laws drafted. Period. That's it. Cerebral was sharing patients' data with tech giants in real time. Oh, we got that. But often, But users often have no idea that they are opting into this tracking simply by accepting the app's terms of use and privacy policies, which many people don't read. Cerebral said in its notice to customers buried at the bottom of its website that the data collection and sharing has been going on since October 2019, when the startup was founded. The startup said it has removed the tracking code from its apps. While not mentioned, the tech giants are under no obligations to delete the data that Cerebral shared with them. Because of how Cerebral handles confidential patient data, it's covered under the U.S. health privacy law known as HIPAA, according to a list of health-related security lapses under investigation by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, which oversees and enforces HIPAA. Cerebral's data lapse is the second largest breach of health data in 2023. News of Cerebral's year-long data lapse comes just weeks after the U.S. Federal Trade Commission slapped GoodRx with a $1.5 million fine and ordered it to stop sharing patients' health data with advertisers. And BetterHelp was ordered to pay customers $8.5 million for mishandling users' data. And the article ends with, if you are wondering why startups should terrify you, Cerebral is just the latest example. All right. Here's a spicy one. Texas property tax bill excludes divorced LGBTQ couples from getting relief. A new Texas House bill that provides property tax relief based on the size of family excludes LGBTQ couples and divorced parents with children, among other parties, from getting the tax advantage. Texas Bill 2889, introduced this week by State Rep. Brian Slatton, a Republican, would supply a homestead tax credit to certain married couples in the state with either biological or adopted children of any age. Now, there's definitely a pro for the future of population growth in the United States. You know, incentivizing people to have kids. There is a pro to this. Qualifying couples under the bill are entitled to annual tax relief corresponding to the size of their family, with 4 children equal to a possible 40% property tax reduction. Couples with 10 or more children may pay no property tax at all, according to the bill. So start pumping them out. But the GOP-backed legislation does not propose granting tax relief to all Texas families, and only couples in heterosexual marriages are entitled to benefits. Couples with at least one partner who have been divorced are also ineligible. Couples who had or adopted children before they were married also can't use those children to improve their tax liability. That seems... I should probably amend the foster children. Supporting Texas means supporting Texas families, Slatton wrote this week on social media. Families are the building blocks of society. We must support families by making it easier for them to have and raise kids and wealth. With HB 2889, Texas will start saying, get married, stay married, and be fruitful and multiply. Slatton added, a reference to a Christian sermon on marriage. In a news release this week, Slatton said his bill intends to lift the state's failing birth rate by establishing financial incentives for child rearing. Well, I don't know about Democratic policies that have incentivized having kids, but I would say right now they're probably the ones in the lead with that. So, time to get a move on. In a news release this week, Slatton said his bill intends to lift the state's failing birth rate by establishing financial incentives for child rearing. I may have just stated this. The proposed law is inspired by policies enacted in Poland and Hungary. Oh, that's interesting. Slatton did not directly acknowledge that this bill makes sure to include same-sex couples and those who have been divorced and remarried, which the Bible considers to be sins. During the legislative session, Slatton has also introduced bills to bar minors from attending drag performances and classify gender-affirming health care for transgender youth as child abuse under state law. In June, the Texas Republican Party adopted a platform recognizing homosexuality as an abnormal lifestyle choice and opposing all efforts to validate transgender identity. I don't know if this has a comment section. This would be spicy to read. Apparently not. Well, what else have we got? Let's go over to the Drudge Report and find the next best thing. Problem with population growth in California is homes are unaffordable, and raising a family is in small apartments isn't healthy as they are too small. Well, I don't know that a apartment being too small is something that makes a place unhealthy. As long as everybody is on the same page, functioning families have grown up in much smaller square footage environments than what most people get nowadays. I remember dating a Thai girl who had a friend who, seemed in all estimates, really American. And then she told me that her and her family, I forget, maybe 6 to 8 people in the family, all lived in a single room stick hut, maybe 2 or 3 stories high. And, every once in a while it would flood, so the entirety of underneath the hut would just be raging water. And then you're just stuck there with your 8 family members in a single room, a single room, no bathroom. Maybe you walk outside to around the patio and do your business, or maybe you just stand in the middle and do your business. I don't know, but it seems we're not accustomed to that in the United States. Okay, here's an interesting one. The Hill. National Customer Rage Survey points to troubling trend among U.S. consumers. The results of a small nationwide survey suggest that consumers are becoming increasingly infuriated by the perceived level of assistance from customer service departments, and some of us aren't above seeking revenge. What does that mean? Seeking revenge against a customer service department? The 2022 edition of the National Customer Rage Survey, when you have a survey dedicated to customer rage, obviously at this point something is already off the rails. Conducted by Customer Care Measurement and Consulting, shows evidence that more Americans are not only having problems with various products and services, but also that our rage toward the companies providing these goods or services is growing. We're also becoming more belligerent with customer service reps, and about 1 in 10 of us are interested in seeking revenge in the form of badgering, belittling, or threatening an employee, according to some of the responses to the survey. I don't want to sound too Pollyanna, but it's kind of horrifying, Scott Broadsman, the president and CEO of Customer Care Measurement and Consulting, told Nexstar of the report's recent findings. Of the 1,000 respondents polled, 74 claimed to have had an issue with a product or service in 2022, up from 66% in 2020 during the last edition of the survey. Of those, 63% said they felt some sort of customer rage during attempts to resolve the issue, which is the same rage percentage observed in the 2020 edition, albeit one that now represents a larger number of infuriated consumers. I wonder if it's not just more telling of the automated services and seemingly after 2020 it seemed that there has been less human interaction available from certain companies and more just going straight to voicemail. I don't know. Not quite like that. We're also yelling and or raising our voices during the 43% of our interactions with customer service, the survey suggests. Perhaps even more troubling, 17% of consumers surveyed admitted to behaving uncivilly toward a company. And not because that's such a white person thing. I was just feeling like I wanted to be uncivil. And not because of an issue with its products or services, but due to a perceived difference of values or beliefs, such as religion, politics, gender issues, or vaccination and mask mandates. Uh-oh, imagine calling into a restaurant, not complaining about the food, but complaining about vaccines and mask mandates. 17% might even be look. The thing with the COVID-19 could have largely been prevented if businesses would have been forced to implement better ventilation policies in their buildings. Basically, like Walmart, small businesses cutting big holes in the front and backs of businesses or the top and just hitting ventilation mechanisms that constantly allow for fresh air. There you go. There's probably, who knows, 20 to 40% of that's what needed to be implemented that wasn't implemented. There you go. That's how you solve it, or one way to help solve it. 17% might even be a conservative estimate. As noted in the full Rage report, many consumers can't seem to agree on what counts as uncivil behavior. Half of the respondents felt that yelling, arguing, and social media assassination were uncivil ways to deal with consumer issues. But the other half thought that those were totally fine, or appropriate depending on the specific scenario. And a quarter of the people surveyed didn't think that threats, humiliation, foul language, and lying were uncivil at all. Those people are not very smart. There appeared to be a rise in consumers lashing out in public too, especially during the early stages of the pandemic, or maybe they're just, really going through troubling or a difficult time. A troubling trend that Brosman worries may continue. What's going on, guys? There's 18 people in right now. Leave a chat. Let me know how it's going, where you're from, what you're thinking. Tell me if you guys are experiencing any rage in your telephone calls. Tell me what you're raging about. Part of the reason for customer dissatisfaction, Brotzman feels, is that companies are having to deal with complaints from an ever-growing population and likely an ever-growing customer base, and they may not have the resources or money to provide the same level of customer service that Americans may have been used to in previous decades. In 1976, for example, a government survey found that only 32% of consumers had issues with a purchase or service during the previous year. The U.S. population has since grown by over 100 million people, and now we have more sophisticated and somewhat more complicated appliances, cars, computers, and apps. Companies attempt to deal with growing dissatisfaction in a number of ways, like outsourcing their customer service department. Like, that's not going to make somebody angry when you hear a guy who can hardly even speak your language or enunciate the words in the way you understand them. That's never a good thing. But, the bottom line's everything. Setting up overseas call centers or even investing in robotic or automated systems. It's true across all aspects of life. What's that, Mark? What are you talking about? Companies attempt to deal with growing dissatisfaction in a number of ways, like outsourcing their customer service department, setting up... we went over that already. Larger businesses, Brotzman said, will often utilize a few different methods, sometimes even segmenting the departments that can handle certain calls or complaints. But this particular tactic, he said, could create even further dissatisfaction, especially if the representatives ignore the complaint and pass the buck to other departments. What it's creating is even more of a rift. It's what the data would suggest between companies and their customers, Brotzman said, likening the issue to a famous line from a 1967 Paul Newman flick. What we have, Cool Hand Luke. It's stated there. What we have is a failure to communicate, Brotzman said, paraphrasing a quote from Cool Hand Luke, and it started to get even more complicated than it had been. That's a dose of truth. Shaking the bush, boss. See you on the next one. Thanks, guys. I don't even expect customer service. Thanks, guys. Panopticon?